Good morning, or in the case of my fourth block folks, good afternoon. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day so far. Okay, now, probably wondering about this get up. Well, we're talking about the Cold War. So, I had to I had to warm myself up, with the coonskin hat and the coat. It's not like I was doing that to just randomly grab your attention or anything. But in all seriousness, the Cold War, this is our last unit. Okay, and why is it called the Cold War? Well, you have two superpowers, the United States, Soviet Union. No direct military confrontation between either side. We come close several times, including the Cuban Missile Crisis that we will be looking at in detail next week. Okay, but the Cold War is absolutely imperative to understand. Because as you guys will see this unit, okay, sometimes you learn stuff in history class that I'm not saying it's not useful, but it's just history that you had to learn, right? This is related to current modern events. So you have to lock in this last part. A, because it's the final stretch, but B, because you need to understand some of these most basic concepts to understand what is going on in our world today. That is our agenda for today, and I am going to set a timer. I'm going to set it on my phone, which you should not have out during this time, even though I'm not here. The rules are still in place. And FYI, this is the last day I plan on missing this year. I apologize. Another meeting popped up, as I told you guys, okay? But we are going to, you guys are going to fill in these notes. And then if you have questions later, the slides will appear in your Google Classroom after 30 minutes. But you need to lock in, okay? Because this is absolutely imperative to understand, okay? So, like I said, the Cold War between us and the Soviet Union, okay? And the state standard literally says identify the primary ideological differences between the United States and the Soviet Union, and that is the U.S. is capitalist and the Soviet Union is communist, okay? Now, what does that mean, though? So, if you look, the top of your notes, it has a little T chart. It says capitalism, United States on one side, communism, Soviet Union on the other. These next few slides are going to look at what on earth is capitalism and what is communism. Now, in the boxes, you notice they're teeny tiny. You do not have to write everything that I've put on these slides, okay? But you should be able to sum up the big ideas. And, if you're not sure, after this video is up, talk with your classmates. Get this down, okay? Because you will have to know this for your final exam, okay? Now, so what on earth is capitalism? So the United States is primarily a capitalistic society, but what is capitalism? And the key word and what you can write in your box is free market, okay? Little to no government interference, okay? Ultimately, companies are not owned by the government. Companies are privately owned by people. People have the right to do what's best for their company. Consumers, that's all of us who buy and purchase goods and services. We have the right to purchase the goods and services that are best for us. We have choice in the economy. Okay, that is capitalism. It's driven by capital or money. Okay, and competition. Okay, it's kind of what we talked about back whenever, because basically the idea with capitalism is what keeps these businesses in check. It's the idea of competition. We talked back, during our industrial America unit, right? Like why monopolies are a bad thing. Okay, in that case, the government might get involved. Okay, but overall, it's a free market. Companies are willing to engage and they're willing to do what they see is best. Consumers are able to buy the goods that best suit their needs and are cheapest and best for them. There is little to no government interference. That is the key with capitalism. So, for the difference between capitalism and communism, we're going to have a cow example. Okay, I found this on the internet, and this is perfect. It's a great analysis. So, traditional capitalism will look like this: you have two cows. Okay, two female cows. You sell one of your female cows, and you buy a male bull. Now, school appropriate, but think about why you would want a female cow and a male bull. It's because they can reproduce, and your herd gets bigger, and you can manage that operation as you see fit. Okay, you have the options as the owner, the private business owner, to do what you need to do. Okay, that is the idea of traditional capitalism. Okay, so again, free market, the business owners and the consumers have the ability to do as they see fit or what they want. Now let's talk about communism. Here is the big key to communism. Communism is government control. That is the biggest key. The government controls the economy. They control the means of production. In other words, what is used, the resources that are used to make goods, the goods themselves. They are in direct control of the factories. There is no concept of private property. Okay, so in a true communist society, that notion does not exist. Okay, everything is meant to be shared. Okay, and the government is responsible for being in charge of that. Ultimately, in an idealistic communist society, the goal is to eliminate the income gap. In other words, it's to eliminate this gap between the really poor and the really rich. Okay, um, and basically kind of get everybody to simmer down to an even level. That's the idea of communism. Everybody is given enough to survive, but they're not thriving. Okay, in capitalism, because you have freedom to make your own choices, right? You have the ability to thrive, just like you have the ability to for your business not to do well. Okay, communism, the government takes control. You don't have any say. You don't, on one hand, supposedly you don't have to worry about anything when it comes to the economy, but on the other hand, you're not going to be able to excel, and that's just the nature of the beast. And back to our cow example. So, first off, communism, government control. That is the key. In the Soviet Union, the government controlled the entire economy. They picked what goods they wanted produced and even what goods were allowed into their country to begin with. Coca-Cola would not come into the Soviet Union until the late 1970s. But anyway, we'll get to that another day. Communism, back to our cow example. Communism is this. You have two cows, so two female cows. The government, aka the state, they decide to come in, they waltz in, they take both of your cows, and they give you some milk back. So, why would they take your cows, you ask? Well, communism. There's no private property. You weren't allowed to own those cows in the first place. However, you did get some milk back. You know, they redistributed the wealth, right? They took your cows, they got some milk for everybody, and then they gave you a little bit of milk back. I mean, not necessarily a bad deal, right? What's the issue here? We'll get to that another day. Because in most cases, communism in countries has not worked out. Okay, on a large scale, communist countries have not worked out as far as their economies doing well. Okay, but communism, the government is in charge. Okay, there is no free market. The government runs everything. Okay, now, talking about the Soviet Union. Okay, so you see this. Okay, the dark red. This represents obviously Russia, but all of these countries that are shaded in the light red, the salmon, if you will, this represents areas that are now independent countries that used to be a part of the Soviet Union. And you notice, you know, you have Belarus, you have Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. Okay, the biggest one though, Ukraine. Yeah, you're starting to see where this is going. Okay, because you know President Vladimir Putin of Russia did not decide one day just to invade Ukraine for the heck of it. There was a lot of motives behind it. This is one of them. Ukraine used to be a part of the Soviet Union. Okay. But this is the Soviet Union. As you can see, their empire expanded not just into Eastern Europe, but also into parts of Asia as well. Okay. Now, the concept of mutually assured destruction. We have spent so much time talking about the atomic bomb, and I kept telling you guys, is like one of the most significant things to happen in the whole world. But at this time in history, right? But it's also a big part of our politics today. Here's what I'm talking about. There are 10,000 nuclear weapons worldwide. Okay, over 10,000. But nobody's using them. Why? This concept, this picture shows you the concept of mutually assured destruction. And what's going on in this picture? Well, you notice right here, which if you're starting to doze up, wake up, okay? Because this is imperative to understand. And it will make what we did with the atomic bomb debate seem like you'll realize why we spent so much time looking at it. Not just because of the historical impact, but of how it regulates foreign affairs today. So if the person next to you is asleep, get them up right now. Okay. But look at this. Both sides have nuclear weapons, H bombs, hydrogen bombs. But what are they fighting with? They're shooting bows and arrows back and forth. Why would they just not use your nukes, your nuclear weapons? Look at the sign. On no account to be used because the enemy might retaliate. Neither side in a conflict, if both sides possess nuclear weapons, this idea states that neither side will use them because they know if they launch this over here, they are going to respond. This side that's been attacked is going to respond with one of their own. So, mutually assured destruction. Okay. If one country uses nuclear weapons, the attacked country will respond with one of their own, and that takes out both. Okay. Therefore, okay, this is the idea. Nuclear war is so devastating that it prevents any country from actually using a nuclear weapon. Okay. It prevents any country from actually using a nuclear weapon. The principle, it's known as MAD, mutually assured destruction. And it prevents countries from doing it because they know if I launch a nuclear weapon at this other power that has a nuclear weapon themselves, they are going to fire one back and we are both destroyed. So it supposedly prevents countries from actually using nuclear weapons. This principle right here of deterrence, okay, this deters anybody from actually using nuclear weapons. Okay, supposedly. Okay, but I'm not going to dive into that. But I will say this: this concept has held true. At least I just knocked on wood. There has not been a single nuclear weapon used since August 9th, 1945, in Nagasaki, Japan, dropped by the United States Army. Food for thought. Okay, that was 80 years ago almost. So, part of the reason why mutually assured destruction carries the weight that it does in being enough to prevent countries from using nuclear weapons, is that the world saw what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they did not want that to happen to their own country. And they realized, okay, if we open Pandora's box, if we launch a nuclear weapon at another power, they are going to respond with their own. They're destroyed. We're destroyed. We both go back and forth. And then, before you know it, our society is down to sticks and stones. Remember that quote from Einstein? I know not what the Third World War will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. This is banking on this idea. Okay? Where if both sides just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, nothing is going to be left. Okay? So mutually assured destruction prevents countries from actually using their nuclear weapons. Okay? Now, you'll have to know this, okay? We talked about this at the end of our World War II unit. What happened to Germany after World War II? Okay? If you recall, okay, Germany was split up into 4 different areas, okay, that was administered by the Allies, the United States, England, France, and the USSR. Another word for that's the acronym for the Soviet Union, okay? Now, the capital of Germany, Berlin, is also divided up as well. So, you look right here, they divided Germany, okay? My head's floating. They divided Germany up. I'm going to take this hat off. It's too hot. It's 80 degrees. But I think I got y'all's attention. All right. They divided up Germany, but they also divided up Berlin. Okay. So you see, they divided Germany up just like a cake. Okay. But then you look at Berlin. Okay. East Berlin is occupied by the Soviets. West Berlin is France, Britain, and the United States. This is going to become an issue during the Cold War. Why? Well, East Berlin is communist, just like the rest of East Germany is going to be communist. But then you have West Berlin, because this is where Berlin's at on the map, that is totally surrounded by communist Soviet territory. Now, why is that significant? We'll get to that another day. But think about it. It's basically an island of democracy in the middle of a sea of communism. A red sea of communism, okay, is a way to view it. But that's what happens in Germany after World War II, and this is going to cause a lot of friction during the Cold War. We're going to talk about the Berlin airlift more on Tuesday, and you guys will see what I'm talking about. Okay? So, easy way to remember this is fear, France, England, America, and Russia. Those are the 4 countries that uh, were in charge of Germany. Okay. The domino theory. Real quick. Berlin Wall, built by the Soviets. Talk to some of your older family members about this. They will remember when this came down in 1989. But basically, again, you had East Berlin that was communist, controlled by the Soviets. West Berlin that was Democrat and capitalist, controlled by the Americans, the British, and the French. They decided to build the Soviets decided to build a wall right down the middle of Berlin that was meant to keep the people in East Berlin in and prevent them from going to democracy and freedom in the West. But we'll talk more about that later because the falling of the Berlin Wall was a symbolic end to the Cold War. Okay, but we'll talk more about that at the end of school. The domino theory is what we're about to go into next. And here's the thing. We had this massive crippling fear. We talked about the Red Scare right after World War I, where everybody is afraid in the United States of communists. Okay, let's see. Do I have anything red? Wait a second. I got a red hat. Yeah. Red. Terrified. They were scared to death of communists. And this does not just go away on a dime. It stays. It lingers. Okay? And so the domino theory was this fear, okay, that if one country fell, quote unquote, to communism, the countries around it, the neighboring countries, would also fall to communism. Pretty straightforward, right? If one country falls like dominoes, every other country is going to fall to communism around it. So you look at these dominoes, right? Laos, Vietnam, Taiwan, Korea. These are, Japan. And look what the last domino is. The United States. The hand that's tipping these dominoes over, USSR, the Soviet Union, communism spreads, and it infects here, knocks this domino down all the way down until eventually it gets to the United States. So one country falls to communism, all other countries are going to fall to communism. Domino theory. Okay, so again, if one country falls to communism, neighboring countries are also going to fall to communism. Okay, that is the idea. So if one country fell to communism, neighboring countries are also going to fall. That's the gist. Okay. Now, the idea of containment. Okay, the idea of containment is this was the U.S. strategy in response to the domino theory to prevent communism from spreading because we were scared of it. We didn't want communism to spread and God forbid get here. So our idea of containment was that we were going to give aid, okay, money, or what was necessary to prevent communists from taking over in certain places. And basically we were trying to keep it contained or quarantined, if you want to view it like that. We're trying to keep it isolated, okay, in an area. So you're like, okay, well, why did we send troops to Korea? Why did we send troops to Vietnam? It's related to this idea. We did not want communism to spread. In both cases, we were afraid it would spread throughout all of Asia. And if it spreads through Asia, who's to say it won't spread all around the world and eventually come to our shores? So, containment, we were doing whatever it takes to contain communism within its current borders. So, the United States adopted a couple of different strategies with containment, okay? Because remember, we are afraid of the domino theory. We are afraid, again, if one country falls, they all fall. So Harry Truman comes up with this idea in the midst of a civil war going on in both Greece and Turkey, where communists are trying to take over in these areas. Okay, and the Truman Doctrine stated this: we would support any quote unquote democratic country against those communist threats by giving them aid or whatever was necessary. Okay, and so we are going to give them whatever it takes to prevent them from falling to communism. And we apply this several other places. We send money to Greece. We send money to Turkey, who after we send money to Turkey, there was the threat that they were going to fall to the Soviets because the Soviets wanted Turkey to get oil out of Iran into the Mediterranean Sea. And a few years later, Turkey joins NATO, which we'll talk more about the significance of that next class, because NATO is formed in response to the threat of communism with the Soviet Union. Okay, Truman Doctrine. I love this picture. Truman's making it rain. He's in his little hot air balloon. He's like the old dude from Up. Okay. And he is making all of this money go all over Europe. Okay. Because look, they're trying to blanket European countries with cash to prevent the virus of communism from lingering over the continent. Okay. I don't know why my screen. Oh, never mind. All right. I guess this is just filtered now. Wait a second. I don't know. We're rolling with it. So, part of the Truman Doctrine was the Marshall Plan. Okay. So, the Marshall Plan was come up with by our Secretary of State at the time, George Marshall, which, if you remember source 7, where Truman is talking about, like, he asked his lead general, General Marshall, how many lives would be lost if we invaded Japan, and he said possibly 1 million. This is the same dude. Okay, now he is the Secretary of State. He is over the State Department, which is the department of our government that regulates interactions, not just for the United States government, but how we interact with foreign both adversaries, but also our allies as well. Okay, so the Marshall Plan was going to help Europe recover. Because think about it, all of this war, well, excuse me, that's a fallacy. Most of this war, okay, a good chunk of this war, World War II, was fought in Europe. Okay, yes, we had the North African theater, and the fighting in the Pacific was brutal, but a major part of the war did happen in Europe. As the Nazis were trying to dominate and take over the continent. Okay, so I mean, France has been decimated. That's where a lot of the fighting happened. Norway has been decimated. To a large extent. Britain, the Nazis bomb London for 4 or 5 months straight, and they do not surrender. The British do not surrender. Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, refuses to give in. But all in all, Europe is in shambles after the war. It's just reality. So the Marshall Plan is came up with by a Secretary of State again, and the idea was that the European countries would get together, okay, and the United States would ultimately give money to them and for what they need to do to be to recover and what needs to be done to help them rebuild and move past World War II. Okay. Now, why did we do this? We'll talk about that in a second. Okay. Well, actually, no, let's talk about it now. Think about why we did this. Okay. Because it was going to help them rebuild their factories and all that stuff. It's going to give us more allies, right? And versus we get allies, but also it prevents them from maybe looking to the Soviets for help. But B, it helps our economy. If their factories are also up and running, it helps the channels of trade flow a little bit smoother. Ultimately, like, yes, in a global economy, the United States, we want to try to be the best, right? But you also have to have the ability to trade well with other nations, okay, and have that ability in order for there to be a fully functioning global economy, which ultimately benefits everybody if there is enough trade going on. Okay, but the Marshall Plan helps these European countries prosper. Okay, the ones that were able to get help. So the United States during this time sends $17 billion over 4 years. Western Europe takes off. Okay, Great Britain, France, Norway. Okay, all of these places, they're just taking off and doing fabulous. Okay, and now their factories, they're rebuilt. They're producing twice as much as they did before the war. Okay, it's a new era of excitement and innovation, and the factories are churning, and the world has moved past the dreaded horrors of World War II. Okay, not all of Europe benefited from this. Okay, there were some countries in Eastern Europe, because Czechoslovakia, Poland, and Hungary, Soviet Union told them not to attend this conference where they were potentially able to get aid. Basically they implied the United States is trying to pull one over on you, and you shouldn't trust the U.S. at all. And because of this, their economies, for a long time, significantly behind the economies of Western Europe that were able to be rebuilt in part because of the resolve of their people, but also in part because of the United States action here. Okay. I love this picture. So you look at this. Okay. The basketball represents the Marshall Plan. Somebody's like, well, this guy's Stalin, right? I'm like, yes, he's wearing the Soviet Union jersey. He's got the mustache, and he's defending the goal. The basketball represents the Marshall Plan. Marshall Plan's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming to save Europe and have it recover. It's coming. And then I'm really glad that didn't hit the projector. It came close. It's blocked because Stalin did not want this to go through. But for many European countries that would later be a part of NATO, we were able to help them rebuild. Okay. Now, if you did not get something, the slides should be dropping in your Google Classroom here in the next, let's see, probably 5 minutes. Okay. Or you can look to a neighbor, obviously. Okay. Now here's what I need you guys to do. You have a lot to do, obviously. Okay. There is a Google form exit slip. This is how I am checking to see if you actually did what you were supposed to today. Your notes you need to keep. Okay. Your notes you need to keep. But the Google form exit slip, okay, it will be checked for a grade to see if you actually did it. These questions are going to be word for word what is on your final exam. So it would be wise to take these seriously. Then shift to the atomic bomb essay. Okay, you're going to finalize checkpoint 3. Okay, look that over and make sure you have all your pre-writing stuff done. Once you do that, you can proceed to the essay if you want to, or you can wait for me to give feedback on it. I'll be getting to those this weekend. It's totally up to you. But if you don't feel fully confident in your checkpoint 3 and you don't want to jump right into your essay, then you can wait for my feedback. Okay, and you still have like a week to get it turned in. Okay. Checkpoint 4. Okay, I'll show you what that is. Really quick. Actually, no, I'm only recording this tab. Sorry. Checkpoint 4 is really easy. Okay, checkpoint 4 is honestly the easiest checkpoint in the atomic bomb project. All it is a reflection on the project. Has your opinion on the atomic bomb shifted? What piece of evidence did you believe was the best? What was your side's strongest argument? So in the debate, if you were for both bombs, what argument did your side make that was very significant? And then what was the other side's best argument? What obstacles did you have in this project, and how did you overcome them? And all in all, what is a takeaway you have from this? Like, what did you learn from doing this project, and so forth? What did you enjoy about this project? What did you think could be different? Okay, all that's there. Another thing, Edpuzzle extra credit. Okay, that's the video of the guy talking about the potential impacts of nuclear war. Okay, it's under the atomic bomb project. Okay, it's under the atomic bomb project tab. It says literally in big letters, extra credit Edpuzzle. It is due next Friday. You still have a week to get it in, but it's 15 project points. That's enough to boost your grade like one or 2 points, like your overall grade. Which I've only had 3 people complete it so far for extra credit, but I'd like to give a shout out. Gentry Hyde, Adriana Roman Sanchez, and Toby Finley are the only ones that have taken advantage of that so far. But kudos to them for getting that accomplished. But it's 15. Some of you guys need that little pick me up. It's fit whether you're between a B and an A, or you just need a little bump, a little giddy up. That's it. 15 extra credit points on the table. Do not squander that opportunity. Plenty to do. Okay? Do not waste your time the rest of class. Sorry. Don't want to end on a bad note. I appreciate you guys' efforts this week. Monday, the debates for the most part. One class knows the debate could have been a little bit better on one side, but the other debates in the class were fantastic. Wednesday, across the board, the work ethic was unbelievable. Made me very pleased. I went home loving my job that day because you guys made my day. And I know you guys will do that the rest of this class. I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope you are safe. I'm not going to lecture you guys about choices, but just please be smart. Appreciate you guys. I'm thankful for you guys, and I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I will see you guys on Tuesday. Okay? See you guys later.